championship.
Welcome to the Ncaa tournament. The madness is here.
This is going to be a wild ride.
This is the best environment in all of sports.
He's been waiting his whole life to play in this tournament.
For the win! Nothing feels better than this!
The game takes you to incredible highs, and it also takes you to incredible lows.
Whether you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Ncaa.com, you are now seeing the faces of the happiest kids on earth. They are dancing, and we begin to prognosticate and see how foolish we could all look. Welcome inside the bracket, as we literally will do that. All 4 regions, all 68 will set you up for the first 4. And these two will tell you all of their picks and their Twitter accounts so that you can yell at them. Andy Katz, Steve Smith. Guys, I want to kind of take a look. Let's go overarch through the brackets, kind of get initial thoughts. Let's start with the East. And clearly there was Duke with and without Zion, but either way you figured it'd come out with the #1 overall seed, right, Andy?
Yeah, especially after the way they played in the ACC tournament. Once they beat Florida State Saturday night, I thought it was a given that they were going to be the #1 overall seed. Remember, it's the body of work, guys, and they had the best body of work among the other potential #1 contenders.
You look at the rest of it, we know Buzz well here. You know the energy of the Hokies, too. He'll be ready. Smitty, when you look at this next group, you've got Richard Pitino, who's amassed a ton of wins early on in his career in Minnesota against a place that the family knows well.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously going up against where his dad used to coach, and this is going to be an exciting matchup. I am, though, Andy, really concerned. I know I'm a Michigan State guy. I thought for sure they had a chance to be a #1 seed, especially beating Michigan today. Andy, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, my opinion is that the overall record of Michigan State, especially in the Big Ten, getting swept by Indiana, losing at Illinois, I think ultimately that probably hurt the Spartans, regardless of their 3 wins over Michigan. But they're a mash unit right now heading into the NCAA tournament.
And the irony is they wouldn't want to switch places with Michigan today, considering the outcome of that game. They might want to when they look at the bottom of this West bracket. It begins with the Zags. Smitty, Mark Few gets that #1 seed.
You know, I love Mark Few's team. I think from top to bottom, they are so balanced. They have experience, they have great guard play, and they have bigs that can play inside, Andy, outside, and they can rebound.
And look, there was a lot of criticism about Gonzaga getting a 1. Keep in mind, when they lost to Tennessee and North Carolina, they didn't have Killian Tilly, who's a projected starter who is back. But by the way, by far, I think the hardest game to pick that we're gonna have to do in a moment, Marquette Murray State. I think that will go down for all brackets around the country as the toughest game to predict.
Morant, hello. Quite a matchup there when you look at what you have. And then, speaking of it, welcome back the final, the last one's in. The Johnnies, the Red Storm, Chris Mullin. You think the intensity will be high between Hurley and Mullin come first 4 night? You'll be out there, Smitty.
Will be fantastic, Casey. And I know you're looking at your St. Johnnies, but I think right now is the teams for me is this to me, Andy, is the hardest bracket to pick overall because you can go anywhere from Michigan, Nevada, Florida, also Texas Tech. Nate Oates has done a fantastic job. A guy I know from Romulus High School in Michigan where he coached for 11 years. He done a nice job with Buffalo.
A little disappointing for the Wolfpack of Nevada because there was talk basically a month ago before they stumbled in the Mountain West Conference that they would be a 2 seed, and they've dropped all the way to a 7 by losing games in the Mountain West Conference.
And transfer you, clearly those Martin kids could score. By the way, Michigan nets Montana the 2nd consecutive year in the first round. We go to the South region. Last year, I remember being here in this studio, I thought we were going to have to get doctors in for Seth when he passed out when UMBC made it 135-1. I don't think, no offense to Gardner-Webb, we see that, Seth, happening. But what about what you see in the other matchups in this bracket?
Well, Kansas State's an intriguing one, but I think Wisconsin, Oregon. Ethan Happ has not played well of late against an Oregon team, which has to be one of the hotter teams in the country because they blitzed through the Pac-12 tournament, crushing Arizona State and beating Washington.
Andy, I totally agree, but I look at Virginia. This has got to be their year. They got to find a way to get to the Final Four, being a #1 seed, especially what happened last season.
And they were the #2 overall seed, so we'll see what happens bottom part of this bracket. Speaking of 2s and 1s, you're used to seeing big numbers for Jay Wright because all they do is win, win, win. Nova, St. Mary's, speaking of winning, beat the biggest number in our West region, right, to win that tournament in the Zags. Interesting matchup.
It is, and St. Mary's played against Gonzaga and won all the 50-50 balls. I was at that game Tuesday night. They were the tougher team in that matchup. They're going to have to do the same against Villanova. The bottom part of that, Tennessee, Rick Barnes has got to get their attention. Maybe he doesn't need to after the way Auburn absolutely just took Tennessee out of their game on Sunday.
And I look at it, Jay Wright, losing 4 starters to their team to have a #6 seed. What he's done this year, he's done a fantastic job. I still think Tennessee, even though, like you said, they got thrashed by Auburn, I think this team right here has a chance to come out of the South region.
You think about Grant Williams, you think about Schofield. They got guys who could score, rebound, experience from last year as well. North Carolina might want to forget that, I know, because I sit next to Haywood here all week long. They are in this part of the bracket. And congrats, speaking of which, a couple of years ago, Bruce Pearl was in here to Auburn. They were the other side of that Tennessee matchup, and they are there against New Mexico State.
Yeah, obviously a phenomenal SEC tournament for them to get that victory for Bruce Pearl over his former team at Tennessee. But most intriguing to me is the fact that Kansas is a 4 seed. First time in 15 years. They didn't win the Big 12, 14 in a row. Injuries, suspensions, everything has gone wrong for Kansas, and yet they're still able to get a 4 seed, but not where we're used to seeing the Jayhawks.
And I look at that Auburn, New Mexico State. I think that's going to be a fantastic matchup because, one, New Mexico State can really shoot the 3 ball. Bruce Pearl, take my hat off to him. They ran through Tennessee.
And Utah State, another team that really can play basketball. Well, it is interesting, though. You think of Cuse. You never care what seed it is. They find a way. Nova down to a 6 we saw earlier. Cincinnati a 7. Kansas at a 4. We'll see how those teams do in a bracket where North Carolina is at the top of it. These are the pretty pictures of, don't worry, it's not their handwriting. We had somebody else write in. Because
that's my handwriting, Casey.
That is yours.
Oh, okay.
Andy, did you write yours?
No, this is exactly, by the way, what we used to do for President Obama. We would fill out, we'd get the best handwriting person here and fill out the first round, and then he would do the rest.
All right, well, go off to your individual brackets. We will fill a bracket out. Also, we are taking your questions through social, Get in, get your questions. We will get them in periodically. You could tweet us any questions that you would like to Andy or Smitty. They, of course, will have their crystal ball out. Let's start, though, Andy, with you, and let's see where you go. Take us through what you have, because you've written in the first round to cut down some of the time, because it would take you a long time to write the rest. And let us know kind of where you sit at that first part of that top part of that East bracket.
Okay, so keep in mind, my penmanship is horrible, so this was not my handwriting. All right, let's just start up here in the East. First of all, NC Central seems like they're always in this bracket, and they do not want to. There was a great quote, by the way, by their head coach. He does not want to face Zion Williamson. We'll see if that ends up happening. I love the fact that UCF is going against, by the way, a VCU team that Marcus Evans got hurt, did not play extended minutes in their loss in the A-10 tournament, and that's kind of why they got upset by Rhode Island in the quarters. Taco Fall, remember him? He's 7'6". He told me actually in the preseason he's really 7'7". Phenomenal talent. Would be great to see him advance here. So let me turn around here. I went with an upset here. Richie McKay, the Liberty Flames, with an upset over Mississippi State. You got to pick at least one, 5-12. I've got this one here, Liberty over Mississippi State. St. Louis just getting in over in the A-10 with their victory on Sunday over St. Bonaventure in thrilling fashion. But I like the Hokies because Justin Robinson's going to be back, their point guard. Over here, I've got Maryland knocking off Belmont. Yes, Belmont got in as an at-large out of the OVC. The selection committee chair, Bernard Muir, talked about the offensive efficiency of the Bruins. Well, they can certainly shoot it. I think they'll get by Temple and Fran Dunphy, but Maryland's got so much size with Bruno Fernando and Justin Smith. I think they advance. And then I got an upset. You got a controversial team right now with LSU. Will Wade's not coaching. The school's not allowing that to happen. I think Yale okay, will, no pun intended, outsmart LSU, okay, and advance for James Jones. They knocked off Harvard to win the Ivy. Minnesota, Richard Pitino gets his dad's old school, Rick Pitino. I think they advance. And Michigan State takes out Bradley as the Spartans, certainly hot after winning the Big Ten. So, mark this down, book it. It's going to be right.
And thank you so much for not actually writing it when you gave it to us. And I know we're over here, and as we shift over to Smitty's bracket, I know he knows that we've seen the 15 take the 2-8 times. Last time, 2050, you remember who it was?
Yeah, I do.
Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, at Michigan State. I remember
correct.
I was calling that game. Casey.
Okay,
Thanks
so
for
I'm
reminding me.
just trying to make sure your memory was still good at this age, Smitty. What do you got
You
here?
got Andy laughing at me, but I got Duke right here, and I think they're beating NC Central, and I think NC Central, Coach Mulder's done a nice job of getting his team to the tournament. I got VCU. The reason why, and I love Taco Falls, I just think the pressure of VCU takes him out of the game because of all the pressing. That's why I'm going to go with VCU. And I got Mississippi State, Virginia Tech. This is going to be a good one when they get a chance to play. Maryland, I'm with you. I think the size of Maryland definitely wins this game over Belmont as well. See, I'm listening to Andy Katz a lot. But I'm going to go here. I think LSU, and I love Yale. I think this team is going to be a story because everything is going on. I know it's negative, but I think this team will rally. They have unbelievable talent. Louisville, and obviously my Spartans, they'll definitely get a chance to have a repeat. Louisville beat Michigan State early in the season. Gonzaga.
Well, stay up here.
I want to keep going.
No, I'm going to let you keep going, but let's take the rest of your East bracket and the next two games. So,
by the way, you know, his nickname is Smitty, but we could start calling him Chalk.
Well, he almost did a Smitty, one of those, and then just almost went to the wrong region. So you've got Mike Rhodes' group. I know VCU. You've got Duke. And that guy Zion and the rest of them. But take us through kind of the next two games there.
Can I write Zion? No, I'm going to go with Duke right here. And I think the reason why is just because Zion is back. He's playing at an unbelievable level. But right here, I have Virginia Tech. I think Buzz and those guys, the way they shoot the basketball, and Buzz have them playing at a high level. And I'm just going to say VT, so we don't have to go through all that. Maryland, LSU. This is a tough one. But I did say LSU, they will rally. I have LSU over Maryland. Maryland has great size, but LSU has even more size, in my opinion. Louisville, Michigan State. Don't even ask me that, Casey. Who do you think I'm picking?
I would imagine he's going to go Sparty, right?
Spartan Dogs. That's because they play with a lot of hard injuries, but Cassius Winston, best point guard in the country.
I would think you'd go there, and you mentioned Maryland. Most of the games they play well because they do have that rebounding margin over most of the country. Not
against LSU.
To your point, shut him back.
That's my guy, Casey. That's my guy.
Smitty. Now let's go to the guy who doesn't have to remember his picks because they wrote them in for him while we were dealing with you, Smitty. What do you got, Katsy, on the other side?
All right, so good matchup here. We got Mike Krzyzewski going against Johnny Dawkins. All right, Duke UCF coaching matchup, but I'm going with the teacher.
Oh, I thought you were going with UCF.
No,
Andy.
not yet. Virginia Tech Liberty in the state of Virginia. I don't think they play often, if it ever. I'm going Virginia Tech to advance. We got an ACC rematch going on there. And look, I do a lot of Big Ten during the year. I've wanted to be on that Maryland train, but they've been so befuddling, too many turnovers. I got to ride someone. I got to ride someone surprising into the Sweet 16, and I'm going to the Ivy. Look at that.
You know, it's a little.
Casey, go test him.
I was just saying,
go test him, Casey.
Andy,
all right?
Jay, go make sure he's all right. What? Andy, you okay?
I'm going for a shocker here.
For admissions, you know, it's a little late to try and get into Yale.
Yes,
right?
I know that. I never would have. All right, rematch here in the second round in the Big Ten. I'm going Michigan State over Minnesota, and I'll do the same thing with MSU.
All right, we are going to leave you there for now. And now you could, Smitty, I know you wanted to go here.
No, I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for my point guard.
Now you could, we're hoping, it's been the few and then the far between getting to that last step. Is this the year for Mark Few? We'll find out. How about this next matchup? Syracuse, who scares everyone just because, obviously, of who they're coached by.
Yeah, Coach Boeheim in that 2-3 zone, and it is giving everybody problems. My Sparties last year for sure. But I look at it right now, Gonzaga has a lot of bigs that can handle the basketball. And to beat that zone, you got to have somebody in the middle. If you have somebody in the middle that can pass and rebound the basketball, and they have shooters, so I'm going with the Zags. They're definitely going to advance over here. Then Murray State, Florida State. This one's going to be tough. Sometimes when you have the best player on the floor, and they will have in Murray State and Ja Morant, but I got Florida State. Leonard Hamilton plays 11 guys. They have length. They just lost a tough one to Duke. I think they'll be ready. I'm going Leonard Hamilton, FSU. Buffalo, Texas Tech. Nate Oates has done a good job and I love watching them, but I got to go with Texas Tech. They are just fantastic the way they play and get out and defend, and I think this one's going to come down to open court points, and I give that to Texas Tech.
Now let's see this. Let's pause here. Now, you said chalk. What do you think is going to happen here? Do we go job or do we go hard?
I'm going to still say he goes chalk. I don't know.
We're going
You don't
job
know,
or
right?
going hard? What are we going?
You know, I'm going Michigan, and it's tough for me to write Michigan. I don't even know how to write Michigan. I'm going to shake a little bit. Let me see.
You write Michigan instead.
Michigan. You know, I won't write it good, but I am going, and I love John Beilein the way they play, but it won't be good penmanship. I'm going Michigan.
Okay, leaving it there, let's shift over to you. All right, Andy, so we know obviously the story with the Zags. They're in a great position. Maybe it even helped them get a little bit of a scare what happened with St. Mary's. How do you see this West bracket?
All right, so I got Gonzaga, as I mentioned, over FDU. But look, this was a rematch of a couple of years ago when Syracuse went to the Final Four. Gonzaga should have won the game. Syracuse came back and beat the Zags. Rematch, going with the Zags. And to Smitty's point, okay, I will go Zags as well. With Brandon Clark and Rui Hachimura, they can definitely slice that zone. I think Gonzaga wins. This is a phenomenal second-round matchup if this occurs, even if we get Marquette over here. But if we go Murray State, Florida State, I just saw Florida State in the ACC final. Love their length and size. I think, for the most part, they'll be able to handle Murray and John Morant. I'm going with a rematch of last year's Sweet 16 game between Gonzaga and Florida State. If you remember, Killian Tilly went through the layup line, got hurt with his hip, couldn't play. One of the reasons Gonzaga lost that game. I think this game, if this happens, this is going to be one of the best games in the second round. You got Buffalo, very physical team. C.J. Massenberg, great scorer. At Texas Tech, Chris Beard, I think could be the National Coach of the Year. I love this matchup, but I'm going to stay in my upset trend here. I'm going with the Bulls, okay? Going Buffalo.
Now,
Yeah, okay.
Okay, upset. Okay, well, you got Yale up there, so you're.
I know. I'm going with
what
my
are you doing at
trend
the
here.
bottom now?
All
What
right.
about Nevada?
Nevada, Michigan. I just have not liked the vibe lately with the Wolfpack. I mean, they came out of the gate strong, and then when they got in the Mountain West, everything unraveled. They had that Utah State game where they completely unraveled at the end. So I'm going to go with the more disciplined team in Michigan to knock off Nevada, and Nevada's chance of repeating as a Sweet 16 team is halted.
All right, so we got Yale on this side and Buffalo, who ate in Arizona last year. They are moving on here. Okay, we got some scratch so far. We still got time.
We got time.
We still got time. Speaking of which time, let's get a question for you. Remember, you can roll in on social. Get your questions to us. Jared jumps in. Jared Park Tweaks says, how far can John Morant and Murray State go? Smitty, you've got them going to Florida State in that second round and then losing, and you have them, Andy, in the same spot. What's it going to take for them to move further than both of you have them, Andy? What has to happen?
Well, first of all, Shaq Buchanan on their team was the OVC Defensive Player of the Year. He would have to absolutely bottle up someone like Terrence Mann of Florida State because it can't just be John Morant. He could go off and certainly score 30 and electrify everyone, but the difference is Florida State has guys like that too. In the OVC, there aren't many teams that are as athletic as Murray State, but Murray State's going to run into a more athletic team, I think, in Florida State.
All right, we're going to find out your questions as we continue. We know Murray State is not going further for you.
Yeah, and I'm with Andy. I just think that athleticism of Florida State is superb to Murray State, and I just think the body and size. I don't think Murray State. This is unfair. I mean, this draw against Florida State. They don't have the size to match up with them in athleticism and to be able to rebound in basketball. So I think Florida State.
Yeah, to that point, I think Murray State has the talent to get further, but this tournament's a lot about matchups.
Yep.
If Murray State was against a more plodding team, you know, maybe even with Ethan Happ at Wisconsin, I would like their chances more to advance than against a Florida State.
They always say guards win the tournament. They do, but athletes and depth, two things that we know you have with that length with Florida State. Let's fill out the rest of this side here all the way to where we get on that part of the Final Four. So, Smitty, start with Duke against Buzz and those Hokies.
Well, Buzz and them beat them without Zion Williams, and I think this will be a fantastic game. I think this will be a close one. I think it comes down to, you know, guard play, and I think Duke will have the advantage there. And I think rebounding the basketball, and the best player on the court will be two players from Duke with R.J. Barrett and Zion Williams. So I'm going with Duke here. I think here, Michigan State against LSU. Tom Izzo, when you say guard play, Cassius Winston will be able to control tempo. He will not let them get out and run and use their athleticism and their size. And we're going to rebound the basketball. And I think by then, Andy, hopefully Nick Ward is in better game, I would say, chemistry, because he's in good shape right now. It's just that he's not in a good game flow. I have Michigan State versus Duke. And down here, this one's going to be pretty good. This one, I think the Zags against Florida State, he's going to throw everything at them, but I think their guard play, you saw them against Duke, they will handle this. I got the Zags beating Leonard Hamilton's Seminoles. Texas Tech, Michigan. Chris Bird, the reason why I'm going Texas Tech, Charles Matthews, Andy Katz, they need him to advance. Watching him today, he didn't look bad, but he didn't look himself. They need him to be at least their second leading scorer, and I don't know if he can do that now.
Reminder before we shift over to Andy to find out and at least get us to the Elite Eight. You went to, remind me?
Michigan State.
Oh,
no, but I just got, to me, it's Charles Matthews.
I know that.
No, and to his defense, Charles Matthews coming off a right ankle injury. I was at the Big Ten tournament. He didn't shoot the ball well at all. And again today, so even though they crushed Minnesota and they didn't need him to be this big-time player, to advance they will.
We saw the run that they made a couple years ago, Walton Jr. and company with the whole plate. You never know what's going to inspire or become a distraction. The Wade situation with LSU is going to be interesting to watch to see, Andy, how they play. Let's see where you go. Getting us to the Elite Eight in
Andy got yelled beating Duke.
No. Well, and to your point, look, I could be completely wrong, because if LSU gets its mind right, this bracket actually really could open up for them, because they have the talent to get all the way to here. I just don't like their vibe right now at all. Okay, so at the top, rematch of the ACC game between Duke and Virginia Tech. Zion Williamson obviously playing at a high level. Don't mention, of course, R.J. Barrett and Trey Jones, and I mean, they're getting great rotation play. I go with Duke over Virginia Tech. Down here, whether it's Maryland, LSU, Yale, I still advance Michigan State against Duke. The bottom part, in the West, rematch. I don't think Florida State gets Gonzaga 2 years in a row. I'm going to assume that Killian Tilly is nice and healthy for this stretch run. And I know the Texas Tech fans are going to give me a lot of flack. They didn't think I believed in them, and then they ended up winning the Big 12, although I do love Chris Beard as National Coach of the Year, so take that. But I got the Bulls versus Michigan. I could see Buffalo advancing here, but here's the key. You've given John Beilein basically from whatever that is, from the weekend to the following Thursday, Friday. I'm drawing a blank on when the West is. Actually, it is a Thursday, Saturday, now that I think about it. So you've given him time. When John Beilein has time to scout and prep, look out. So I am going Michigan back to the Elite Eight as they knock off Cinderella from Buffalo.
Before we get to a question halfway kind of through to the at least Elite Eight portion, a couple things to notice. We all know 5 seed has never won, and so far your fives are out, right, both of you. Other thing, every single year we've had the first four, one of the teams has won a game in the following round. We still don't have any of those yet on either side. So
that
we
is
stay
correct.
there. Let's get a question from you on social. What do you got for us here inside the bracket? Who has the best chance to upset Duke in the East, Smitty?
Oh, my Spartans, for sure. That's the one thing I would say. But I would say if you're looking down there, maybe Virginia Tech, because they beat them already and they know them, but I would say Michigan State.
So not Yale.
No, that's Andy's pick.
Okay.
No, there's two teams that I think can beat Duke in the
Okay.
East. One is Michigan State. The other is LSU, if their mind is right.
Right.
Okay, even though I did not have LSU advancing at all, they have the talent with Naz Reid. They got the guard play with Tremont Waters. Javonte Smart is now back. They have the talent. Those two teams have the size, athleticism to knock off Duke.
A one has won the tournament 7 of the last 10 years. Duke the one overall. And many look at them with Zion as unbeatable. We'll see whether or not both of you have them going the entirety of the way, despite just squeaking by Yale in that bracket. No offense to those of you who went to Yale. Andy is looking for admission. We continue to go through the brackets, so we'll leave it there for now until we kind of find out your Final Four. Let's stretch out the anticipation a little bit. So, Smitty, let's start with you. Let's kind of move brackets.
You want to switch?
As we go. Oh, yeah, we should do that. We do one of these okey dokes. Alaman left to your corner.
My left hand. I don't know if I'm going to be all right with my left hand.
All right.
Use your right hand. That's all right.
Last year, every single person who filled out a bracket, at least that we know of, had Virginia and then something different happened. You're not going there this time.
No, not at all. I'm going with Virginia, and I love them the way they play. And I think what they went through last year, I think they have great balance. I think they have great shooting. I love Guy. He flat out can shoot the basketball. So Virginia over Ole Miss right here. So I'm going there for sure. Next, Oregon, Kansas State. This is the tough one for me, Andy. I love the role Oregon's going on. I just think Kansas State stops that role. I'm going right there with Kansas.
Just takes out my alma mater right there, right off the bat. He's got Oregon over Wisconsin.
Yeah, well, Wisconsin, I think is a little bit. But they're here, Purdue, Villanova. I'm still going Jay Wright. I just think Jay has his team. He'll have them prepared. Purdue is a team. Sorry, Matt Pan, I'm a Big Ten guy, but I have Villanova beating Purdue.
And it doesn't seem to matter, by the way, who is on a team that Jay Wright has. You might count them out, like Syracuse, for example, a year ago.
This is going to be good. I mean, this is going to be a physical matchup, in my opinion. But I think it still comes down to Grant Williams will take over. You talk about physicality. He will be the most physical, and they have guys that can play, and their guard play is fantastic, and they have size. I'm going Tennessee.
All right. Clearly wants to continue to be able to be friends with our friend Candace Parker. Let's stop there. Let's get the 4 from you in the same spot, Andy. So kind of take us over to where you are with
over here.
UVA.
Okay.
Are we going to be singing some Tony Bennett or the blues? Where are we kind of with Virginia in this side of the bracket?
So after last year, I talked to Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome, and they were determined to work harder than ever in the offseason to not let that happen again. They're not losing to Gardner-Webb. Oklahoma, I had sort of a little deeper in the seed line here. They're trending in the wrong direction. Kermit Davis has done a phenomenal job with Ole Miss, but UVA, they're going to win this game. All right, over Ole Miss. They're just a better team. As hot as Oregon is, I think they might have expended all their energy right now. I think Ethan Happ is finally going to play better because he's not played that well the last couple weeks. I go with the Badgers over there. And this is interesting here. Okay, K-State, Irvine. A lot of people may want to pick Irvine because they did a great job winning the Big West. But they're not 100% healthy right now, the Wildcats, okay? Dean Wade, we don't know his status, if he's going to be able to play at all. I like the Badgers over K-State, even though they got to the Elite Eight last year. So we got Tony Bennett against, when he was assistant for his dad, Dick Bennett, when they went to the Final Four in 2000.
See that Wisconsin tie he got.
Right, I was going to say Wisconsin.
Yes. I don't like the fact that St. Mary's has to come all the way across the country to Hartford to play Villanova. Bad vibe on that. So I got Villanova advancing. Jeff Jones done a great job battling back from cancer, prostate cancer. The head coach there at ODU, taking on Purdue. But I love Carson Edwards here. He's not played as well lately, but he's capable. They have the guards, led by Carson Edwards, to match Phil Booth. I'm going Purdue to take out the defending champs. All right? Iowa not defending well. I like Cincinnati. We saw them beat Houston on Sunday. Tennessee, Colgate, a surprise win of the Patriot. Tennessee gets rocked by Auburn on Sunday. I think Rick Barnes uses it. Grant Williams, high character, great leader for Tennessee. Second year in a row, SEC Player of the Year. He will have the Vols ready to beat the Bearcats. So I'm going with Tennessee advancing to the Sweet 16.
All right, so he's got a 5 still alive to win it all because it was Wisconsin. So we'll wait for you there, Andy, over here. Let's go back to kind of where you're at. Jay Wright still with that team working and Virginia hanging in. What happens in those two matchups right there?
Well, you want me to go here?
Let's continue.
You want to stay there?
We're gonna go stay up there and put the next two.
I'm going Virginia, I think for sure. I mean, I am really riding with this team, Virginia, this year. I think for sure they get a chance to beat Kansas State. This one right here, and Candace Parker's going to love me. I'm going Tennessee.
You are?
I am, and I think Villanova, this is as far as they can get for me. And Tennessee, this team right here, and I can't wait to this matchup, but I'm going Tennessee. I think it's just too much for Villanova, size-wise, experience, and just the overall depth. So I'm going Tennessee, Virginia.
Yeah, Villanova players experienced, but in different roles than they were in clearly a year ago. Tennessee players more the same roles and maybe learn from what happened. So now let's see kind of same two games. Can't wait to see Virginia against Wisconsin, Andy.
Come on, Andy.
I think you're worried about the over-under on that one, whether or not they get to 100.
Well, clearly, I was actually more worried whether or not you were going to upset the people, your folks with Wisconsin, or the folks with Virginia.
I think Virginia is so driven right now to get to that second weekend in the Sweet 16 to erase what occurred a year ago. I just think defensively, Wisconsin struggles to score sometimes, and Virginia the best defensive team in the country. So I got Virginia advancing. This could be a very physical game between Purdue and Tennessee, but I love the leadership. I know we didn't see it on Sunday against Auburn, but throughout the course of the season, Tennessee has bounced back. They rocked at Rupp, come back and beat Kentucky. I think they'll do the same, lose to Auburn, advance to the second weekend by beating Purdue.
All right, so copping just C all the way down the line, not for kids at home. Virginia, Tennessee, we go to you on social for another question to us inside the bracket. Jimmy, what's going on? He says, do you think the defending national champs deserved a higher seed? How do you like their chances to make it to the Sweet 16? Well, both of you have them moving-ish. Well, at least you do. I forgot, Andy, you didn't even have them past Purdue, huh?
No, I do not have them getting to the Sweet 16. Steve does, but I mean, here's the deal. They lost, about the higher seed. They lost too many games for them to get a higher than a 6 in the Big East. And then in the non-conference, they lost at home to Furman. So for that reason, I think they were seeded correctly, even though they won the Big East tournament.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But not the same team.
No, not the same team. And Andy's totally right. They should be a 6 seed, not anything higher. I think when you look at overall, they got off to slow starts. They're coming on now, but I think that was the right seed they had. The committee got it right.
One thing you can be sure of, Jay Wright's teams, Boeheim, they won't beat themselves. They will test you, which will make the games interesting. If Villanova can hit big shots, we talk about Phil Booth, and you think about the advancement of those roles, right, from the players
He won't be scared. Phil Booth will not be scared.
No.
You can see what he's doing now.
No. I will be, though, if anybody picks against Tennessee to come into this studio in a couple of days. Did Tennessee get the short end of the stick not getting a number 1? And can Kentucky make it out of that bracket? We talked about Tennessee and kind of the value off of maybe that loss. So let's get to Kentucky. Their loss against Duke was discussed for a long period of time. I know somebody you and I talked about many times. What do we see about them down the stretch that you really like? And then look at the bracket with where you are with Kentucky.
Well, first off, their freshmen just weren't as ready as Duke's, physically, emotionally. And sometimes I think we skew it that, hey, freshmen got to come in and be like Anthony Davis or Zion Williamson, and not all freshmen are created equal. So the margin certainly shocked me. The fact they lost that opener, no. So they just took longer to develop and figure out their rotation. Ashton Hagen's come to the point. So I think they are more than capable of getting here and winning the whole thing. Whether or not they will, we'll find out. But they definitely just evolved over the course of the season.
Well, I like the fact that we can kind of answer the question right after the question. So I'm going to switch things up on the fly because they asked about Kentucky. And let's kind of go up this way and start here.
You're not starting with Andy?
No, he goes. I wanted to make sure I asked
the cameras
you both
are already
about
over
Kentucky.
there, so.
And he already, his allotted time they had in my ears, enough Andy Katz. So, Smitty, Wofford, for people who don't really, this is a legit basketball team that can really play. You've got them ahead of Seton Hall. Speaking of Nova, again, we're in that title game of the Big East. How about Wofford, Kentucky?
Yeah, and I do. And I love Seton Hall, but I think Wofford will beat Seton Hall, and that's going to be a fantastic matchup. But come down to Kentucky. I mean, P.J. Washington is just too big and too strong down there. And the guard play. That's what I think where Kentucky is starting to get better. Those young guys weren't ready earlier. The guard play is matching the bigs inside, so I have Kentucky advancing.
Iowa State, a team that does not, and we're seeing it, and you and I saw it when we did the draft together, Monty Morris. They do not turn the ball over. They will make you make mistakes. They do a lot of the same things. What about those matchups?
Well, Iowa State, and Andy, you know this, they had some problems. And players only, when I start here, players only mean, even though they came out and won, I still don't think they can get over the hump. Houston, they've done a fantastic job. I think they beat them just because they don't turn the ball over at all, and that's why I have Houston beating Iowa State.
All right, hopefully our friend Ron is not close enough to drive over to the studio before the end of this show, having them ahead of Georgia State, one of the great personalities and coaches in the game. Get back up to number 1. UNC against Duke, with and without Zion, is a discussion we may see play out all the way towards the final, but let's start with them against Iona.
What? That's why I got UNC. They're going over Iona. Nothing against Iona, but I have UNC. But this UNC Washington will be fantastic, but UNC is just too strong. And I know they lost to Duke their last game, but easily could have won that game, and I thought they will beat Duke, but Zion was just too much. I have UNC winning this game over Washington. I think Kobe White has a chance with his size to be able to take over. You need guard play, and he is starting to find his rhythm. This one for me, Andy, this is the 5-12. I have Auburn, and I have Auburn beating Kansas. Kansas have a lot of injuries, a lot of things going on. Bruce Pearl gets his team to be able to get a chance to play against UNC. North Carolina. I have Bruce Pearl advancing against Kansas.
Sometimes it could be in a win, sometimes in a loss. Tennessee maybe learns from the loss. Auburn maybe pushes forward with the win. All right, Andy, now you get to kind of show us with Kentucky. Do the same thing.
All right, work
we
from
are
the
giving
bottom
you,
up.
which is why you get from social. And ask us, and you will receive, as long as it's not Smitty talking about the Wolverines. What do you got at the bottom there?
So just to reiterate, this I think is going to also be one of the tougher games to pick. Wofford versus Seton Hall, Miles Powell versus Fletcher McGee, one of the best shooters, but actually both great shooters. But I got Wofford advancing, America's darling suddenly, and I think people will latch on to them. Against Kentucky, I just think the size will be a little bit too much of an issue for Wofford. As good as Mike Young has done with Wofford this season, the Terriers, I think we're going to see Kentucky advance.
All right, so you have the same matchup as Smitty. As this is called buying time to radio. I just dropped a phone number. Iowa State and Houston in the next matchup.
I'm going to just shift over here, just a little easier for me to write here. Iowa State, Houston. I agree with Smitty. Iowa State's been all over the map this season. Very hard to predict. Houston, yes, they lost to Cincinnati in a third time they played them in the Sunday AAC final. Love the defensive effort for them. And think about how they lost last season, okay? Unbelievable shot by Jordan Poole of Michigan, something we may never see again, or if we do, it certainly will be in the annals of NCAA tournament history. So I think Houston avenges that and gets to the Sweet 16 after what occurred last year in the second round against Michigan. So coming up top here, this Auburn-Kansas game, Bruce Pearl taking on Bill Self's crew. I agree, Kansas inside is an issue. Can they defend the three? Obviously, Auburn loves to shoot a ton of them. I like Smitty's pick as well. I'm going with Auburn. How could you not like them after what you saw on Sunday against Tennessee and Nashville? This will be a very physical game. Sam Merrill of Utah State, who's the player of the year in Mountain West Conference, against Carolina. By the way, I don't like the mojo right now. Washington, the zone is getting shredded. Oregon just trashed them in the Pac-12 tournament title game. So, very physical game, but I think Utah State will have a hard time, even though they beat Nevada's speed, keeping up with UNC. So I got Carolina advancing.
All right, so on both brackets here, and on both sides of that half for Andy, number 5 stayed alive for a bit. Wisconsin eventually went out, but Auburn still there on both sides. Smitty, let's go to you. They get the Tar Heels.
Yeah, I think Bruce Pearl has done a fantastic job, and they play extremely hard.
There's a butt coming here, isn't there?
Yeah, it's a butt. That butt is because you're playing UNC. When you want to play fast, Andy said it, UNC plays extremely fast. And I think when you start talking about the way Kobe White pushes it, the way Cameron shoots the basketball, and I love Luke May. He has been totally solid. I have UNC beating Auburn. And then down on the bottom, Houston defends. They play extremely well, but I got Kentucky winning this game. I think it comes down to, I don't know if Houston will be able to rebound the basketball with Kentucky, so I'm going with Kentucky here. Calipari gets his team, even though these young guys lost to Duke early. He gets them, as you can see, back to the Elite Eight.
Sometimes experience on the fly, and look, beginning of the season doesn't matter. It's what happens at the end. So, really, the only one shot here for the 5. Bruce Pearl and Auburn against UNC. Do you have it going any differently?
I do not. I have Carolina taking out Auburn because, as you know, a lot of times, as they say, it's not great to, if a team wants to run, to also do the same thing. And I think Auburn, was going to want to get up and down with Carolina, and I think that's the wrong way to beat them. And I think Carolina can match them, can defend them on the three-point line because they've got quicker players, or as quick. I like Carolina.
Now, who is they? Because I was going to. Did you get that one, Smitty?
Coaches, critics.
If they want to run,
pundits.
do the same thing. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. What's at the bottom over there?
Look, this is going to be, I think, a great Sweet 16 game. Kelvin Sampson, John Calipari. Great matchup. Houston will be able to defend Kentucky. I want to go there. I want to pick this upset because I think Houston has the ability to knock out Kentucky, but I can't. I'm going to go with a Kentucky.
I like how you led. I like how you led us on.
Spell. Kentucky, Carolina rematch.
And we will get to it. I want to hit social in a second, but we all want the interesting thing about the tournament, how it works every year. You want upsets, and then you kind of want them early, and then you want the dream matchups, but you don't know if you want Cinderella. Duke, Michigan State, North Carolina, Kentucky. How great would that be? Both of your brackets have those matchups.
So if I can pause here for a
Please.
moment, I do think if some of this occurs, I do think that we really could get Houston in the Elite Eight. I think we really could get a Buffalo in the Elite Eight. I don't think we could get a Yale. but I do think 3 of these have potential for one of those outliers that you're talking about getting all the way to a potential Elite 8.
And that is the battle, right? Depending upon what your pool is, of course, at home. We know what's important to you. Let's get to homework or on the road, wherever you're getting us on social media. Am I crazy to think, Danilo says, that Auburn's the most dangerous SEC team right now? By the way, shout out, Smitty. Go Sparty.
There we go. I like Danilo. And yes, it's just the way Bruce Pearl has these guys buying in. I look at a lot of body language. They're up cheering. They're having fun. They defend. Guys get subbed. They're okay. They come out happy, and then the next guy comes in. And they have a lot of guys interchangeable that can handle the basketball and make plays, and they want to push. I just think it'll be hard to push against a team that will be able to push better and shoot the 3-ball.
A lot of the teams that we're looking at who have, other than Villanova, who just won it, and their experience, maybe not enough because those guys, as we said, in different roles. Kind of a lot of teams this year, we talk about Tennessee, you think about North Carolina, who went through difficulties more than we thought they would, Andy, with the same particular group a year ago in the tournament. How much do you think that plays into a positive, that experience for some of these teams to kind of use that to their advantage and know what they need to do better this time around?
Oh, definitely. I think that applies to Houston after the way they lost to Michigan. It certainly applies to Gonzaga, definitely if they get a matchup against Florida State. It certainly could have Buffalo, it's basically the same team coming back that beat Arizona but lost to Kentucky. So they're going to be familiar if they advance to that second round. I think that all applies with them. I'm just looking at this other side here, Cincinnati, okay? If you remember, they gave up a 22-point lead to Nevada last year, blew that. I think they will be definitely feeling very much like they have to advance. Well, now, this happened in the second round against Nevada, but they would feel like, okay, we have to get back to at least where we were last season. So I can see some of that occurring with some of these teams.
Now, we're going to leave it right here because I don't want, clearly you will not have Texas Tech or Michigan beating the Zags because Mark Few is joining us. And we talked to the head coach of the team that's got the #1 seed down in the West. Mark, first of all, congratulations, Coach. Really appreciate it. Give us a sense of coming in this time off of what happened against St. Mary's and what your group learned from it, maybe takes an advantage from what happened.
Well, I mean, it kind of remains to be seen what we've learned from it. I would say it's definitely got us, the staff and now the players, refocused on, the type of things that we've done pretty much this entire year, other than the other night, on what makes us successful and kind of conversely what doesn't make us successful. So it's been a good chance to kind of recalibrate, and now we need to come out and get back to playing the way we were.
Mark, obviously experience matters. We've seen that for the teams that have gotten to the Final Four over the last couple of years, including your team 2 seasons ago. When you go into this NCAA tournament, knowing that you've got guys that have been in this situation, first round, second round, Sweet 16, Elite 8, even a Final Four, you've got a number of guys that have experienced this. How much of an advantage is that for you when you walk out on that floor?
Andy, I think, as you know, covering this thing for so long, it's a totally different experience from your schedule every day. It's not your normal road game or neutral game, and just with all the things that are expected of you as a player, with the media and just the timing and the timeouts and the half times are longer and just everything that goes into it. So to have guys that have been through that, done that, experienced it, and really advanced, as far as you could possibly advance in it. I mean, it can't help but help you in some way, shape, or form. But, at the end of the day, it's about who's playing good in those 40 minutes and who's playing good in those moments. And over the years, our teams have always functioned very, very well in those moments.
Mark, Steve Smith, congratulations again on the #1 seed. I would like to know, in your mind, not the most valuable player on your team, but who's the most important for this run in March Madness?
Gosh, I mean, obviously, Steve having Josh Perkins, who's been around forever. I mean, thinking back to Andy's question, I mean, Josh had, I believe it was 15 points in the first half of a national championship game against Carolina. So, I mean, that's something that you can really, really draw upon. And he's had a phenomenal senior year with just his assist to turnover ratio and the way he shot the ball. So he's obviously extremely important to us. But we have the one thing that has really carried us is our tremendous balance. I mean, we can probably go 6 or 7 deep of guys that can get double figures, and so those two big kids have really had phenomenal years with Rui Hachimura and Brandon Clark.
Mark, when you're the high seed and you're playing a lower seed like last year with Greensboro, when that team starts to get confident, when they it's game's closer, even take a lead in the first half, how do you settle your team down in that timeout when suddenly the crowd is on the Cinderella and your guys are maybe pressing a little too much because they're expected not just win, but win handily? What do you do in those timeouts?
You just get back to talking to your guys about, doing what we do and focusing in on the plan, focusing in on controlling what we control. And usually that's our effort physically, that's our attention to detail, especially on the defensive end. And what slid a little bit the other night with us was, we've been phenomenal taking care of the ball this year, and you have to take care of the ball in situations like this. And then when we do that with this group we got a lot of different ways to score the basketball. So it usually involves kind of one of those aspects, and getting them back into focusing and thinking about that, and not making it all about 1-16 and upsets and crowds and referees and things like that.
Coach, appreciate the time. Congrats again on the 1 seed. You've got some basketball to watch here with the first 4. Good luck against whoever your opponent is, 1-16, and moving forward. Thanks again for the time.
You bet, guys. Thanks.
All right, so there's Coach Few, and I think, to be fair, what you talked about is a different conversation. 135 times, a number 1 seed coach probably had a similar chat like that with his team. Hey, look, they know who we are. We know who they are. We have to give them respect. But, Smitty, you can talk about this as a player. You can say that all you want. Now you have, hey, look, happened to them, right? Happened to them right up there with UMBC. It could happen to us.
And I'll tell you, one of the best examples that I witnessed years ago was I happened to be in D.C. for the George Mason-UConn game.
Yep.
And I think Mason was an 11 seed, but they advanced so far they ended up being the home team. And once they started feeling like, hey, we got a chance, you could see the UConn players, Calhoun, everyone was getting frustrated. The crowd was behind Mason, and they lost. And Mason got to the Final Four. And I'm curious, as a player, when you're supposed to win, you're the high seed, and you see them starting to get confident, how do you react?
Andy, I've been there. I got real close. We were number 1 seed playing against Murray State. Popeye Jones. We won in overtime, and Popeye Jones was the best player on the floor that day. And you said it best. The crowd, we played in Tennessee. The crowd got going, rooting for them. And then as young players, also teams, when you come in with your chest out, and next thing you know, the momentum is going their way, you start to press. Then there's guys that want to take shots. They usually don't take shots. Then you start to point fingers. The biggest thing is that how can you stay true to form and do the little things to beat some of those teams that have momentum.
Well, for those who don't know, you'll see it when we cover the first 4 with the great personalities in college basketball, Mr. Poetry and Moten, coach of NC Central, who said he didn't want to play Zion. Well, now he wants to play Zion. Let's talk about kind of where we go, getting to our Final Four. So take us through
Start here, where
all
we're going.
4 of the. Why don't you take me through these 2?
Okay.
And then we'll go to Andy there, and then you could do like your do-si-do over to this side. We'll do the other side of the bracket.
Well,
So
I'll
go
start
ahead.
here, Virginia, Tennessee, and I think this is going to be great. The problem I have with Virginia is scoring the basketball. Can they score enough against the elite teams when I start talking about now playing against Tennessee? I think Tennessee has a chance because of they can score and the size, the rebound, the basketball. I have Tennessee beating Virginia. Candace is going to love me for that.
Yeah, I was going to
Candace
say,
Parker.
this is clearly,
Yes.
I mean,
I don't want to root
if you
for
have them playing UNC, I should just quit now. I wouldn't want to be here for any of that. Go ahead.
Well, you look at this Kentucky UNC, you can't take away. This one right here will come down to guard play, I think, and being able to shoot the 3 ball. And for me, I think when you start to be able to shoot the 3 ball, when you have 2 teams that are just fantastic, being able to make shots, I think UNC beats Kentucky because they'll be able to shoot the 3 ball better.
All right, the Heels and the Vols. On the heels of that, Smitty switch sides. Andy, you're up on that same half
Yeah, Andy, let me
of the
hear it.
bracket.
For the record, we have not discussed our bracket in the immediate moments after it was released.
No, we definitely did not.
We did not. I got away from you, Andy.
All right, so if we get Virginia, Tennessee, Tony Bennett, Rick Barnes, two veteran teams. Look, Virginia getting to the Sweet 16 would be an accomplishment after what happened a year ago, but this team certainly thinks they can win the national championship. But I just think this is, once again, maybe the wrong team for them to face. This team will handle adversity. I know they didn't do it well on Sunday in the SEC title game, but I love Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield, Jordan Bone. They've got experienced guys at the right positions. I think Tennessee advances right here.
Let me ask you a real quick.
Oh, what did I say? I said the.
Yes, you did. You said it right.
Yeah. So,
but I do want to ask you one, and I'll break it.
I said to the Elite Eight.
Break the rules for a second, because you're coming off losing to a 16.
No, that's advancing out of the that's the Elite Eight to the Final Four.
Yes. See, he had it right, and then he just kind of
sorry.
Quit while you're behind only a little. So Virginia last year, they had the loss, but you said an accomplishment, right, to the 16. So how do you kind of play the dichotomy of that? Because
I meant
the
to say
number
the Elite
two
Eight.
overall.
I meant to say the Elite Eight.
But would that be an accomplishment, or do you think their goals are still, hey, look, who cares about that? Where we're seated, we need to get to the Final Four.
Well, let's first say this, okay? Schools and coaches should not be defined by whether or not you get here.
Right.
Because it's incredibly difficult, as Smitty knows. I mean, look, the last Big Ten team to win a title was Michigan State in 2000. We're coming up on almost 20 years since the Big Ten has even won one of these. So it's incredibly difficult. Yes. Do they have the talent to win a national championship? Sure. Should they get to a Final Four? Well, it's hard. It's very hard to do. And if they get to the Elite Eight, I think that's a great season. By the way, they've had a phenomenal season before any of this tournament starts.
All right, I like it. Show me the bottom. UNC, Kentucky. What do you got?
So I think actually we're going to have something similar to happen last year in the Midwest. Remember in Omaha, the Duke-Kansas game was the best game of the tournament. I think we could have the best game of the tournament right here in Kansas City. Okay? Roy Williams, former coach at Kansas. He's going to have a lot of following there with Carolina playing in Kansas City against Kentucky. I really am vacillating with this one back and forth, but I am going to go with a little bit more experience on Carolina over Kentucky, even though they have an inexperienced point guard in terms of years as a freshman, Kobe White. I like the White matchup over Higgins here. I am going to go with Carolina to the Final Four, which, by the way, in the preseason, very few people outside of the Carolina locker room had Carolina in the final.
I don't have to predict the games. I will predict slowest media and most sweating in the elevator, that barbecue in Kansas City. Difficult to deny, Smitty. Go ahead, take me through the other side. Give me the
Well, I'm
final.
going to start here. You know what I mean? When you look at Chris Beard, Texas Tech, this is a fantastic job to be able to get to that Elite. Gonzaga's Mark Few, I just think experience. I think, bigs, been there. I love the way they played all year. Even though they lost in their tournament, I'm still going with the Zags over Texas Tech.
All right, got the Zags in to the Final Four. Duke, Zion against Sparty.
Cassius Winston will be the best guard in this game, in my opinion. And I know you look at Jones will put a lot of pressure on him, but he's used to that. I think it comes down now to be able to rebound the basketball, and that's what Michigan State does. So give them an advantage there. I think overall talent, Duke, they have more guys that can go get you 20 or 30. But I think what hurts Duke against Michigan State will be their bench. I don't like Duke's bench. And is Bolden back, Andy?
Not yet. We don't know if he will be.
Hopefully, because I want all kids to be able to play. If Bolden's back, this will be tough for Michigan State. But if not, I got to go with Michigan State. Hey, Casey.
I'm looking for the numbers that show me how.
There we go.
Hey. If you,
all right.
It's picking one bracket versus everyone at the school being
Hey, this is the number 2 seed that has a good chance.
I'm just going to give you a little tease here.
Okay.
This is pretty bizarre because we don't see each other that often.
I'm pretty sure that's a spoiler, not a tease, if you are telling us.
I'm just saying, we're thinking a lot alike.
Okay.
Now, we didn't get all the way there, but we're getting close.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to start at the bottom as well. So this was supposed to be the matchup last year.
Yes.
In LA, because Gonzaga, we thought, would have beaten Florida State. Killian Tilly, I just told you, of course, what happened. So they didn't get a chance to play Michigan. Michigan beats Florida State to get to the Final Four. This is in Anaheim, once again in California. Can Michigan do it 2 years in a row in the state of California? No. I'm going with Gonzaga to get back to the Final Four, second time in 3 seasons at the top. Okay, here we go. I agree totally with Smitty on this. I've always had a concern, as great a season as Trey Jones has had. Trey Jones, like his brother Tyus, doesn't have a Quinn Cook, okay? Tyus had Quinn Cook. Trey does not have someone else. So he doesn't have two guards to run at Cassius Winston, Big Ten Player of the Year. But I agree with you. I think the difference will be the fact that you've got now Nick Ward is back. May not be 100%, but that's 5 fouls. So that's Nick Ward's 5 fouls. That's Xavier Tillman's 5 fouls. That's Kenny Goins' 5 fouls. That's 15 fouls to run right at Zion Williamson, okay? And really try to body him up. He can get in foul trouble. I'm going Michigan State to shock, and it will be a shocker because I think America will think Zion Williamson will be in Minneapolis and expect it. But I am going with Tom Izzo getting back to the Final Four, Michigan State, Gonzaga, Carolina, Tennessee.
And to the point.
And he's been cheating off my paper.
No, I'm way over here.
To the point, though, more often than not, the best player in the tournament is a guard. It's point guard play, shooting. Duke shooting the basketball, and sometimes around. That's right. That's the interesting part, because if you're not relying on Zion to carry you by himself, you think about Barrett, you think about Cam Reddish and some of that group. There have been games they've shot well. There have been games they've shot not very well.
Yeah, and as much as I was impressed, and I've seen them a couple times, but as great as they looked in the ACC tournament, let's not forget, and I know Zion Williamson wasn't playing, but they should have lost to Wake Forest, one of the worst teams in the ACC. So they've gone a little bit up and down, obviously. And I know he didn't play in that game, and it's a big difference. But those other guys can't carry as much as obviously he can.
Let's look at the Final Four. Let's get to your championship game. And Smitty, you can give me a winner as well. I mean, feel free if you want to put like a score number in there and try and.
We're going all there. But
go ahead.
UNC, Tennessee, I'll start there. Roy Williams, Rick Barnes will be fantastic. Kobe White, obviously going up against all these experienced guards with Tennessee is going to be a matchup. But I think it comes down to Admiral Schofield and Grant will get a chance to be physical against Carolina. This one's a tough one. I went back and forth, but Candace is going to love this. She's going to start calling me right now, but I'm going Tennessee over.
Well, she's not going to like my bracket?
Yeah, she is. But she would never thought I'd pick Tennessee because we go back and forth.
Well, she needs a bounce back for our studio show as much as Virginia does in the tournament, because we all remember her on the ground literally watching Tennessee get knocked out. So
by the Ramblers.
We'll stay in her chair this time. So you've got Tennessee. Who are they playing?
This one they played earlier. This was seriously, in Minnesota, they've had a scrimmage game. Andy. And they said this was fantastic. And Gonzaga won that scrimmage. I think now, unless Gonzaga's healthy, and Michigan State will be without Langford, but this is back in Minneapolis. This is Big Ten country. It will be a lot of Spartans there. I'm going MSU. Reason why Tom Izzo, just like Andy said, hasn't won one since 2000. He gets back to be able to win a national championship.
Smitty's like the guy at the roulette table. You put it on. It was 17 for me. It didn't hit. Got to hit eventually. Then you walk away and there's 17. All right, MSU, Tennessee. Who you got?
Rick Barnes, I love you, but come on. My Spartans get to the national championship. We're going Michigan State. This is I love this matchup. Candace will definitely be paying for dinner. Going Sparty. Come on now, Sparty. Spartan dogs win this one. What in the world? You didn't have to ask that one.
No, I knew. I mean,
okay,
hey, you better sign that and own it. Sign it and own it.
Well, yeah, of course you're going to sign it and own it. He gets to keep the fan base, even if he loses the bracket. You see the season recap, and obviously the big one. Nice Hancock there. The big game with the injury, and we'll see what happens with that, obviously, as well, with Kyle Arns. So Michigan State wins it all. Let's see how you did here, Andy.
All right, I will start on this side as well. Once again, I think this is a great matchup. You got Luke May and Cam Johnson, Kenny Williams. We mentioned Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield. Experience matters. Keep harping on that. I just think Tennessee's been more consistent. I like the Vols. I've liked them throughout the course of the season. I think Grant Williams is the star in this game.
All right, so the law firm of Williams and Schofield into the final, both brackets.
So we finally have an agreement, but not all the way, all right? I went with Gonzaga at the beginning of the season as my team that I thought could win the national championship. You asked Mark Few who his most important player was. He didn't probably want to answer because he didn't want to offend anyone else. I think it's Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark has been phenomenal. Transfer from San Jose State, great rim protector, runs the floor well. If he could just be a little bit more assertive, I think they've got the size to contend with Michigan State. They can shoot the basketball if Zach Norvell is on. I think Gonzaga gets back to the national championship game. And by the way, this was one of the best games of the regular season. Gonzaga, Tennessee, in Phoenix, early in the season, won on a three-pointer by Admiral Schofield. So the rematch from Phoenix to Minneapolis, and I'm going with the Zags. My preseason pick to win the national championship in Minneapolis. Gonzaga gets through and wins the national championship, and I am owning this pup.
So Andy says this is the year for the Zags. For Smitty, it's another year.
Yeah.
Sparty, although let me give you a stat courtesy of the man, myth, and legend Hal Galima before this show.
Yes.
And that is, of any team in the tournament against top 25 teams, nobody better all year than Michigan State. It was 10-1 against them. So they played well against top teams all year. You've got Sparty, and you have the Zags, and both of you have Tennessee in the finals.
Yeah.
So clearly Vols fans are happy.
So, by the way, you know, the last time we had 4 number ones was 2008. Remember that epic final down in San Antonio between Memphis and Kansas? Kansas wins in overtime. So we ended up having, you know, a 2, a 1, a 2, and a 2 on our Final Fours.
And you said Smitty was just going chalk. We go to
But not 4
social
ones.
inside the bracket. Your questions. What do we got? What is the double-digit seed that will make a run to the Final Four? So even though you don't have a Final Four double-digit seed, I'll start with you, Andy. Give me the one if you were going to do another bracket, and some people at home are going to do 20.
Right, they're going to do multiple.
What's the one double-digit seed you would tell people to keep their eye on has the best shot to make a deep run?
So I'll tell you, I really only see one, and I didn't even get them to go out of the first round, as crazy as that sounds. But it actually, to me, is Seton Hall, all right? I didn't like their matchup against Wofford, but as a 10 seed, they've already beaten Kentucky. They beat, I'm trying to draw a blank here. They had the great win over Kentucky. They beat Villanova. So they're a team, because of Miles Powell, and you want guard play, you know, a great guard certainly can lead you. Oh, they won at Maryland. That was their other great win. So of the double-digit seeds, they could make a run. You know, the Murray State pick obviously is going to be trendy because of John Morant. And, I mean, they would be going against my national champ here and knocking off Gonzaga. I could see it, you know, but I just don't think they have enough pieces around Ja. As I mentioned, they got Shaq Buchanan, good defender. But if you're going to really pick one, and I didn't even pick them to win their first game, I'd go with Seton Hall.
But neither of you had anybody from the first 4 winning a game. Is that correct? In every single year,
yes.
The next round.
The next round.
Every single year, at least one has. How about Shamari Pons?
Yeah, look, they've been
Arizona State, St. John's easy.
Yeah,
Good.
they're helter-skelter. St. John's certainly could knock off Buffalo, and I also think, you know, Belmont certainly could beat Maryland.
And I think my double digit is Murray State. And the reason why is John Morant could be the best player on the floor. I just think matchup against this length of Florida State. That was the only reason. But to answer that question from the Twitter poll, I think it's Murray State out of all the double digits. I love Seton Hall as well. That matchup right there against Florida State and that size would just be too much.
All right, we get one more question in social. Let's take this that comes in here from Tom. Any bets between Smitty and Grant Hill? Michigan State plays duo. I thought we were going to say any bets on who's who. Every time I'm out with both of them, they get confused for the other one.
Yeah, you know, it will definitely be there, I think, for sure. I mean, me and Grant, good friends. We were texting all throughout the game today. This will be huge, that Duke-Michigan State game, and I think we'll have a lot of them. He'll probably have to wear some kind of Michigan State jersey, and I'll wear a Duke jersey, and we'll just switch. I'll just go to Duke game, he'll go to Michigan State game.
Oh, boy. But, hey, I thought you were going to make him do all the late game times. And
That's what I should do.
The early ones, because I know he can't read his own schedule, and if Grant's watching, he knows he doesn't check his own email. Let's tell you what is coming up and get you ready. A couple things. First of all, you can get to us, the voice of the NCAA tournament playoff, in a franchise we call College Speak. Welcome to NCAA March Madness Live VR app, powered by Intel True VR. It is the official virtual reality app of a men's basketball tournament, like having courtside seats for every buzzer beater, upset, and history-making moment. Follow the action. Live VR cast featuring exclusive play-by-play and commentary, or choose to watch from over 10 camera angles from around the court and inside the arena. Meanwhile,
I'll be
you
on
can
that
get
show.
to us on the fast break. Andy Katz will be there. They don't take any breaks.
No.
So
none.
just like Jack Bauer on 24, no one will use the rest.
I think Andy has a twin.
Get to it Thursday and Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, and Saturday and Sunday over at 6 for Fast Break. We have gone too fast through our brackets, getting you here, the first four. Our coverage in studio will get you set up 6 p.m. Eastern time. It's Prairie View A&M. Exciting story, Fairleigh Dickinson. That tip 640. Then you got Temple at Belmont, who is in. Poetry in Moton again. I think that's 3 years in a row for our first four coverage. North Carolina Central, North Dakota State, and the Johnnies and Mully, Hurley and Arizona State. You want to talk about two coaches. You and I covered a game the other night, Smitty, where Doc Rivers and Bolin went at it.
There'll be a lot of spitzing from Bobby Hurley in that game.
It'll be interesting coming up. For Andy Katz, Steve Smith, the rest of our crew, the madness is on. Let's go.
I'm Priscilla. Welcome to my dorm room. You're going to be in the mix with March Madness. I just want to make sure that you're your best self. You know all the college lingo. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. You know, get you ready.
Get ready to be disappointed.
My rollie has a dab of ranch. What are they telling you?
Say it again.
My rollie has a slab of ranch.
Dab of ranch.
That's got to be something with a salad.
Like I have something on my face?
A rollie is a Rolo?
My Rolodex got some dressing on it.
That's a rollie with a little ice.
Rolex.
First of all, ain't nobody your age got no Rolex. What does the ranch mean?
Well, ranch makes everything better. What makes a watch better?
Ranch?
It's dripping in diamonds, jewelry. How many social media platforms can you name?
Well, I can name them, but I'm not a member of any of them.
What's the one where you can put the faces on?
Facebook, Instagram.
Twitter, I'm out. I wish FaceTime counted as a social media outlet, because I do use that heavily.
One of my favorite artists, I'm sure yours too, Cardi B.
Oh, no question.
Are you familiar?
She just won 2 Grammys.
Cardi B, you know who she is?
No.
What is Cardi's catchphrase?
Occur? Is that occur?
Okay. Gotta roll that tongue.
Okay. Well, what? Okay.
Yeah, gotta roll that.
That's like saying okay.
Yeah.
In bird language.
You can do it. Okay.
Occur. Okay. Okay.
Gotta roll that tongue. Okay.
I think Cardi B is very talented.
Okay.
How's her relationship going with? Is it Offset?
Seems to be working out. They're working it out. But
Good luck, Offset and Cardi B.
I've got one for you.
Okay.
Fortnite.
Oh, the video game?
The college athletes love it. They spend some time on the Fortnite. Oh, of course, I know Fortnite.
People are online, like around the world, all chasing somebody around.
Played it before?
I haven't touched the sticks since Pac-Man.
Glow up. I know you know this one.
I don't even think I've heard the term glow up. You gonna step your game up?
Exactly.
Unfortunately, I got to glow up all the time. The job demands it way more than I want to. I just want to get cash and chill.
Some people have something called a Finsta.
A Finsta?
Sounds really cool. I have no clue what it is.
Like somebody who's always being offensive?
You know what it is.
Yeah, it's a fake Instagram account.
Why would anyone have a fake Instagram account?
So you can stalk other people without them knowing that it's really you.
Your drip is too lit. What is
That
the compliment?
is something that I would be afraid of going up with on the air.
Do you know what it means, though?
No, I don't.
They're talking about what I got on right now. It's pretty much how I roll.
What are they telling you?
Yeah, my swag, my flavor, my style, my essence, it's on fire.
Your drip is too lit. He's got a runny nose.
Hundo P.
Hundo P. Man, am I that out of touch?
100%?
Yes. Okay, see, good job.
Hundo.
You say, so you're taking Virginia to win the whole thing. You Hundo P on that? Yes, I am.
Well, you tell me, like, what was cool whenever you were in college? What was your phrase, your go-to?
It's been so long since I was in college.
Hey, Pa, should we get in the covered wagon now and go to school?
The word nectar became a thing, like sweet, like nectar.
From Michigan, we used to say, what up, though?
You look fly, man.
You got mad flavor.
What does that mean? I just look like cool?
Yeah, just, you know,
I got swag.
Your drip is lit.
Priscilla, thank you.
Thank you.
For educating me on the road to the Final Four.
You young kids, y'all need to put down the video games and pick up some books.